Hello, everyone. Welcome to Psychology and Spirituality, a Bridge to Better Life discussion. During our weekly episodes, our podcast episodes, we explore this interesting intersection of spirituality and psychology. And as a result, we are able to just capture, reach, and gather timeless wisdom contained in both fields. I'm your host, Marcia Trajano, and I'm so excited to have Dr. Anaí Fonseca with me today. Hi, Anaí. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you, Marcia. And hi, everyone that are listening to us. It's great to be here again.
Absolutely. It's such a wonderful time to be together, right? But Anaí, I have a very interesting little story, if you don't mind me telling to you, and then we can talk about this very interesting, and some people may criticize us. "Ooh, You are just too naive, Marcia. What are we talking about?" But today we're going to talk about joy, right? The idea that we can navigate our lives, yours and mine, and reach a sense of inner harmony and truly joy, that sense of playfulness. And to me, I don't know if you know the painting or the painter Matisse, Henri Matisse, right? He is very famous. He's an impressionist or post-impressionist, actually, in the early 1900s France. And there is a painting that, if you know nothing about history of art, you look at it, it's like, what did a child paint this? But it's the joy of life, a joie de vivre, and it's a group of people just dancing around and in a forest. So it's just quite beautiful. And let's just capture the essence of living with joy that so many of us are really overwhelmed, right? Overwhelmed with inner conflicts, overwhelmed with a loss of direction or even a sense of purpose. And it is so hard to bring back to perhaps when we were just born, when we were young children, when we could laugh and dance and play and be happy. So here's my story.
Go ahead.
Let us all here imagine that we're sitting or standing at the edge of a great forest. The sunlight is filtering through the trees, and that same sunlight start to cast a warm glow on the path ahead. And we're on this long journey. And yes, this journey, this path is filled with, oh my goodness, trials. We fall, we have missteps, we even have moments that we question ourselves. Am I on the right path? Let me look at my map to see if I'm taking the right path. And in that path, many of us may feel indeed lost. We may feel unsure. What direction? Do I need to take a shortcut? Do I need to go back? Where do I go? We wonder if the mistakes we've made would forever scar us or define who we are instead of who we want to be, right? And when we keep walking, and we just, just let me go through this path, despite all that is going on in my mind. And when we keep walking further, we just start to all of a sudden notice something beautiful. We look and we start to see small glimpses of clarity. We start to feel moments of peace. We start to understand that at that moment, that with each step that we take, we are growing, we are evolving, we are connecting the dots and be able to no longer be so lost. So this is pretty much Adai, the journey or the hero's journey that if we, and I'm saying this with, air quotes here, the hero's journey, because it references a lot of amazing work, as we know, Anai. And the hero's journey is what we all go through life, don't you think? We are young at heart. We are really unskilled to fight what comes at us, to be able to discern that those challenges are just simply another wrinkle that we have to go through. But with the hero's journey, we get to a point that we do find a sense of harmony, and we do find even within ourselves aspects of ourselves that we may not have seen it before. Uh, if we think about it, we can talk about our physical, our emotional, our psychological states as we go through this. And this path, this hero's journey, it's really all about learning to rejoice in both the quiet moments and the struggles that we have to go through. It's a path of understanding that indeed each and every challenge that we go through is a lesson in disguise. And for all of us that are going through a path that we really don't know where it's leading to us, the path may not be clear, but it's a path of self discovery, transformation, and ultimately joy. So, Anaí, today let's explore this journey to going to a path, this journey to also find inner balance, to find joy. And let's talk a little bit about how we can indeed navigate the complexities of life and with compassion, right? How can we perhaps reconcile our shadow and how the simple act of rejoicing, even in the midst of hardship, can indeed bring us clarity and healing. Why is it important for us to even counter the this invitation to be, to live moments of joy with the life that most of us are living, which is a life characterized by pain and suffering. Can we just start talking about it? What are your thoughts?
Um, well, it's a challenge, Marsha. It's a real challenge because the hero's journey that you were
Yeah.
talking about has to do with the ego, right?
Hmm.
And we say that here we are because we are talking and we are based on the teachings of Joanna de Angelis, right?
Yeah.
That it brings to us the spiritist knowledge together with the depth psychology of Carl Gustav Jung and other depth
Hmm.
psychologists. So, putting everything together, and why is that? Because we can have this understanding of the hero's journey, for instance, if we look like in a Freudian way,
Hmm.
because we are all here in a sense going through this journey, as you said, making mistakes and learning, right? So that we can adapt in this world and we can relate better to each other, right? We can develop intelligence. So this would be, and of course, we go through a lot of suffering and pain and conflicts and difficult situations. And we have, as humanity, being, let's say, been developing, evolving in consciousness. We are not as barbaric as in the past. We could we could say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though we still do some barbaric acts, as you mentioned, because we still have wars and still have people dying of hunger and diseases all over the world, despite if we think about humanity, despite all the possibilities, all the technologies that we have. So, hunger, poverty, death of many diseases at this point shouldn't exist anymore because we have, as humanity, this potentiality and we have developed enough science and technology. So why do we keep, hurting ourselves? Why do we keep doing wars, and why do we have hunger in our cities and addictions of many types, and
Mhm.
different kinds of hurt towards ourselves and towards each other. And I think, of course, we have the hero journey. We are here to learn, to evolve,
Yeah.
um, but all of this could be like only with the Freudian aspects, we would have enough knowledge to say, well, we have our impulses, our drives, and we have this need to survive. And we need to control this. This is very Freudian stuff.
Yeah.
We need
Yeah.
to control this, and we are going to suffer to control this because to make civilization, we need to control these impulses of aggressiveness, of power, and all of that. And we
Hmm.
get neurotic, we suffer when we can't control these impulses, okay?
Hmm.
So the hero's journey, the ego has to undergo a lot of suffering and learning to control impulses, let's say. And this is one aspect of understanding ourselves.
Yeah.
But Jung and Joanna, then much more. But to bring Jung to the equation, Jung went further because he said it's not only adapting to this world, to this material life, but is finding, as is very well said, because we can understand the forest as the unconscious,
Yeah.
right? And as you said so beautifully, some clarity that comes, the sun, a little bit of sun here and
Hmm.
there. We can understand it as our consciousness and our ego struggling to understand the different conflicts that are on this path.
Yeah.
And so we could think, but how can we rejoice doing all this hard work,
Yeah.
and trying to find our way in this path through this forest that some many times can be very frightening. Have you gone, Marcia, in a forest where I'm totally lost always. I can't
Yes.
find myself east, west, south, north. I'm awful.
Yeah.
And I to convince myself that, oh, I have been wandering spiritually in other lands, so this is bothers me to know my if I am in the south or in the north. But it's just joking with myself because maybe I have some brain stuff, some genetic, because my was always kind of lost, or maybe it's
Yeah.
my psychological type because I'm
No, we are, you and I are the same. My entire family jokes about my lack of awareness, spatial awareness, right? So if I ever go hiking, there's a concern that I may be lost if if I'm not if I am not with someone. But I think it's just so funny that you said, but the symbology is that it is a bit frightening, even to the best of us, the most spatially aware individuals, it is not an easy. It's that sense of pioneering that some of us have, right? To the hero's journey, to go, to drive, to throw him or her into an unknown situation and just keep forging. But that's what we do, isn't it, Anaí? Every day of our lives. That's what we
Yes, we
do.
do that. We do that. We have some, some days
Yeah.
better, other worse. But
Hmm.
then, as you said, how can we rejoice? How can we find joy? And it's so, so important to live with joy,
Yeah.
because joy is that what you said is the result of harmony, right?
Yeah.
When we
Yeah.
find balance in this, we have
Can
the
can I can I
physical.
ask you? Sorry to interrupt, but can I ask you to maybe pause and see if we can perhaps start by defining what would be this sense of true joy, and more importantly for you as a Jungian analyst, but also with a medical background, how does joy in your thoughts relate to this mental and emotional well-being?
Okay, so since we are talking also about and based on the psychology of Joanna de Angelis,
Sure.
I will answer you with a sentence by Joanna
Yeah.
about joy.
Thank
She
you.
says that joy is a result of the superior achievement of
Yeah.
psychological health, which in turn stems from harmony that must prevail between the physical, in the emotional, and
Hmm.
psychological aspects. Actually, among the physical, emotional, and psychological aspects.
And
So
comes
you
from
see what
within, right? Comes from within instead of coming
probably.
from a response mechanism to an external event. That the sense of joy, that lightness, pleasure, happiness, delight, any of those things, they're so beautiful words, right? They really come from this sense of contentment, but it's not abstract. It's really all about perhaps um, how can I say, based on your own expectations, what you've achieved, or how you're contextually can frame your, and I'm thinking more of a cultural framework, right? How can you contextualize yourself in terms of your life, who you are, how you define yourself, and how you appreciate life. Does this make sense what I'm saying? And I'm not sure if I'm getting things all over the place.
I think, yeah, and I think it must. I think for people not to get confused,
Uh-huh.
we have to understand that Joanna is talking about harmony,
Yes.
and it's very difficult to find harmony if you're looking only outside of yourself, right?
Yeah.
Of course, we are here in a relational life.
Yeah.
We relate to each other, to the environment.
Yeah.
So it's not, we have impressions and sensations from
Yeah.
the physical world, from our bodies, right? From our emotions that many times derive from these interactions, right?
So it's
And
event
also,
based, right? Sorry, but it's
yeah,
event based. I'm here and there's an event that can be, I don't know, you've been in a really cold, the weather, and all of a sudden the sun, shines and there's a little bit of warmth, and you go out and like, oh, and that's event based. My
yeah,
senses react to the warmth of
yes.
the
And
sun,
how
right?
we respond and how much, as you said, we
Mm,
know ourselves.
yeah,
Because how much are we conscious? It's all about self discovery, as Joanna said, self analysis. How
mm,
much I understand myself, because you also talked about compassion.
yeah,
So, to have compassion, I have to understand what I'm
Mm.
going through,
Yeah.
and to have patience, and to understand that it's, as you said, the hero's journey. Everybody goes through difficult times to, to even to get to know our own reactions. Many times we react to something that we
Hmm.
are amazed with ourselves. How could I react in that way? Why did
I
I have
know.
those kinds of emotions, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't know that I had this capacity or this way of reacting. So we are sometimes a mystery to ourselves. That's why we say that symbolically the forest has this all this connection to the unconscious
Yeah.
and the surprises that you get in the way. So let's go back. I think it's great that you brought a small story, because then we can do some active imagination, as
Okay.
Jung said, or Joanna tell us about, doing some kind of imagination and meditation in that. So if we think ourselves, everybody that is are listening to us, and let's use ourselves as an example. So when I was listening to your story, because your imagination, your creativity is your own. So your forest is very private to yourself, to your experience of a forest. So of
Hmm.
course you were imagining a forest, and I was imagining another one, and everybody that is listening to us would be imagining their own forest. But remember that I told you, wow, because when you said in the path, and I would be in this forest, and there would be some light sometimes, and then I remember immediately, would I be going right, left, north, south? Because I totally connected with my um, awful
Sense of direction.
sensation. Sensation. It's awful. I'm great with intuition and awful with sensation. So, and with this, a lack of
Yeah.
direction. So for me, for instance, okay, but then I know myself, and I said,
Yeah.
but it's the hero journey. And I know the hero journey is, the strength, the courage that we have to go through life and understand that we have these values. But how can we understand that all of us, only by being born in this, we are very brave,
Yeah.
you know and all of us, sometimes we are not going to feel that much brave. Sometimes we are going to feel fearful of something.
Yeah.
But we are, as Jung says, and Joanna also says, that we our psyche here in this world is very dual. Our
Yeah.
psyche, not all of us, not our spirit, but the part of us that is here reincarnated is in a dualistic
Yeah.
dynamic, right?
Yeah.
Psychologically speaking. So, of course, when I imagine myself, I would be lost totally. Mostly because today I was seeing a lot of patients, and
Yeah.
maybe we are here, and I'm a little tired. So immediately I thought of being lost in the, let's say, in the negative part of the symbol,
Yeah.
right? Because we are
Yeah.
talking about an archetypal situation, the
Yeah.
hero going through this path of self knowledge, of growing, evolving, developing in consciousness. So, of course, so I connected because today, and we are talking, and I'm feeling great now. But of course, when we started, I was kind of tired and this and that, as many people would be, maybe are driving and listening to
Yes.
us, and
Yeah.
who knows, maybe they said, oh, but in my mind, a picture of a forest with a lot of trees, and I would be kind of lost or tired to go to this path. So each one of us are going to be feeling something and inside in this at this moment when we are imagining, right? Because we are connecting to the symbol and the symbol has a very specific meaning to each one of us,
Yeah.
despite the fact that the image is the same. A forest, for instance, the proposal. Okay, this is one thing. But then immediately, as we are talking about Joanna, right? So what happened? And about rejoice. I remember this. Well, but we are talking about rejoicing.
Mm-hmm.
And why do I have to connect with the negative part of the archetype or of this symbolic forest? And
Yeah.
then you talked about a light coming through the trees. And then I remembered a very nice day when I was walking through a beautiful forest, and the sun was shining, and it was not cloudy and it was not dark. There was a lot of light. And then immediately you connect to the learning process, and the way that despite the things that you consider negative about
Yeah.
yourself, but then you find value. Then you know, but I'm brave. I faced that challenge, and I found
Yeah.
some values in myself that I didn't even knew that I had. That's the hero's journey. To despite of difficult times, it's like conquering or reconquering ourselves, finding values that Joanna says are kind of dormant
Yes.
deep within the unconscious. But to do that, it's very important. We can do, and I will bring Freud again
Uh-huh.
through this. But the difficult thing about Freud, and it's very important because he opened the doors of the unconscious. But the difficult stuff is that everything, creativity, spirituality, you talked about Matisse, the painting. So
Yeah.
all of these artistic things, in the end, was all about sublimation, Marsha.
Yeah.
So we would achieve this part, and it's the best that we can think of in Freudian's terms,
Mm-hmm.
because we would like control our impulses, our drives to destruction, and um, to difficult sexualities, and things like that. So then it would be sublimation. We
Yeah.
would overcome that, but through a defense mechanism. Okay, and so we never leave the ego. We never the ego, the hero is always like this suffering character, that okay, he would be okay in the end of the day, but not rejoicing. So I was wondering why Joanna asks us to rejoice in this life that sometimes it's so harsh. We feel so much pain. And I thought about, Marsha, that pain and suffering that we
Yeah.
undergo so many times, it's exactly the opposite of joy, right?
Yeah.
With
But is
the,
it? Is it, right?
yeah, yeah. And I've been talking about, the balance between this duality that we all live.
Yeah.
So I think she's calling, and I would love to hear your opinion. She's calling us to a more balanced view of the world, because I was thinking, when we suffer a lot, we can even explain through karmic conditions, for
Yeah.
instance, with the spiritist knowledge and other spiritualist, point of views. But I was wondering, Marcia, that when we suffer, right, when we are feeling pains, in reality, it came to
Mm-hmm.
my mind. I'd like to hear your opinion about that.
Uh-huh.
I think the great mission of suffering and pain is to change our point of view
Ah,
through
love it.
the,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, to
Yeah.
change, to teach us and help us, to realize that there are other ways of looking to life and to this difficult path that the hero has to undergo.
Yeah.
And what do you think about that?
No, I love it. And what comes to my mind, this is a multifaceted view of joy, accepting, accessing joy, which on one hand, you already said, right? There's a role of establishing a path to inner peace or inner balance, right? So you really, we all, not you, we all need to learn to be resourceful and create mechanism to achieve that sense of balance. To recognize, for example, when those sense of equilibrium of balance is disrupted, and I have to tell you, this is just an example. For the past 3 months, I've been having the most fantastic months since 2 years ago, when I mentioned to you previously, when I went through almost a burnout and it was very difficult. And I kind of emancipated myself. I was able to break free from the shackles of my difficult several months before, and yet a couple of days ago I just fell into the pit of despair. The pit of despair. Yes, I am very exaggerating here, but it was important to talk about here because I recognized what happened that got me out of my own balance. So that is another point, right? Is to really recognize those disruptions and what can I do, all of us, to restore what I had before, just a moment before. So I was able to, and I what I did was I tapped into my social network, those people that I trust, and I just have to talk to you, just to vent. You don't have to solution the problem. Let me just tell you how I feel, and write off what I was feeling. And of course, it is always a battle with me. So the battle of the other person that is trying in my mind to attack me, this other person said, "Oh my goodness, this person is going through exactly what you're going through." And it's almost like, oh, there is no enemy. We're just off off center, right? So it was very interesting. But the other aspect of, uh, despite that, beyond, not despite, but beyond the idea of inner balance, I think it's understanding, um, and you mentioned before already, the role of compassion and forgiveness in this journey so that we can have again have joy, right? How do we do this? Why is it important in my case, my little my little confession here about how I was feeling? Why is it so important that I can look at myself, I can identify that I no longer had the same level of balance and harmony that I had before. Look for ways to restore it, but then have compassion and forgive myself because I probably was the culprit. So having this pass, if you will, to approach myself, my inner child that was really the wounded child within me that was crying for help, and hold it, right? And welcome it, and ask for forgiveness. Those are the things that popped into my mind. I don't know if it answers your question, but I think it's so important, that idea when we talk about joy. To me, and it always goes back to the innocent child, the playful child, the child that is just in the moment and happy and grateful and ready to learn, right?
Yeah, joy is pretty much,
Mm-hmm.
we can think the child as a complex, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we were children and would play and were innocent and all that and had all the energy. But of course, the children can be hurt, the child can be hurt,
Yeah.
right? And we'll suffer a lot because the ego is immature and doesn't have enough defense mechanisms. We could
Mm-hmm.
think like that, but it is important, Marcia. You talked about that because the core of the complex
Mm-hmm.
of the child is the divine child, like we have in Christmas, baby Jesus. So is
Uh-huh.
the archetype, the image of the
Mm-hmm.
divine child, of everything that is sacred,
Yeah.
that is dormant within us, that we were talking about, and
Yeah.
has not only the potential to be happy and to be fulfilled in this life, but as Joanna said, and she says that all human beings are committed to the universe. To the universe. We have the stuff of the universe here in us. We are
Oh.
our bodies, our psyche, spiritually speaking and materially speaking. The universe is within us, and we are part of the universe. Because the stuff of the universe is what makes us,
Yeah.
right? In
We
different
are
dimensions.
we are stardust, right? We are
We are
that's
stardust.
yeah.
Yeah, this is so beautiful. So when you say, well, to have compassion by my inner child, the child that is hurt within me, that of course, when we are talking about burnouts and
Yeah.
all the demands of this world and the way that we feel unable or sometimes not so competent and not so
Mm-hmm.
able to do stuff, or feeling judged, but many times we are actually projecting onto other people this criticism that we are feeling
Yeah.
towards ourselves, we are doing towards ourselves.
Yeah.
So, but this is all a part of the complex of the inner child. And aren't we nowadays, if burnout, for instance, and depressions and anxiety, as we have been talking here in this podcast, are so prevalent in these days, are
Yeah.
so, are the rising, the rates of burnout and
Mm-hmm.
depression and anxiety. So why is that? So all our inner childs are suffering, and
Yeah.
of course we could think like that, but I think the collective also,
Mm-hmm.
Marcia,
Yeah.
is doing us acting in this way if we are not paying attention. Because many times when I'll tell you a little, and then we come back if we have
Uh-huh.
time
Yeah.
to this, because I was just talking to someone during this week, and
Yeah.
it's a 70-year-old lady
Uh-huh.
doesn't feel at all as 70. You know, her emotional age would be something like 30. She stopped
Oh.
around 30, 35, and she's
Uh-huh.
70. And she has lived, of course, because we are all living, if we have some kind of conditions in life, being able to eat well and have some kind of social standing, whatever, she can live to 90, 90 something. But as Jung said, she has passed a lot, the midday of the life's circle, and of the sun at the midday. She's going to the night of this
Yeah.
existence,
Yeah.
and she is emotionally feeling as she was like
Prime
35.
time. Yeah, prime time, right? Right in the midday.
Yeah, and the difficult thing is that she like almost spent the whole of her adult life partying and with
Yeah.
friends and traveling.
Hmm.
So she thought that was joy for her. So
Yeah,
she denied
interesting.
herself having children,
Uh-huh.
even get married. Okay, and her family is very a lot of she has nephews and nieces, but it's a dynamic of the family. They are kind of all childish.
Yeah,
Okay,
interesting. Hmm.
so and she is the person that feeling the way that she feels emotionally, but she was able to have at least material material conditions and a good job and all of that, some independence, okay?
Hmm.
Because the rest of the family, even this wouldn't achieve. So it's a very, like, we are in Wonderland and there is
Yeah,
no time limit and we are going to live forever. So let's just go party, everyone, and all this stuff.
yeah. A Peter Pan
Now, at this
complex, right?
age,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. That's the dynamic of the family. But
Yeah.
then she started realizing that
Uh,
this joy, because of course the body gets tired and you have
hmm.
symptoms. I have heard someone say, "Well, but getting old is a disease." Can you imagine that?
Oh,
It's
oh.
like a disease, not her, but another person this week.
Yeah.
But she, of course, she has gone through surgery and all of that to look like a younger person and all of that.
Hmm.
But doesn't matter because someone, let's say, another consciousness was calling from within her.
Sure.
It was, and she started getting anxious and depressed without knowing why.
Yeah.
And this is what's beautiful in Jung's psychology, depth psychology. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter if the ego wants to spend the whole time of the experience in this life, but the self, the higher self, our higher knowledge,
Hmm.
the wisdom within, you could say, that Jung calls the self, capital S,
Hmm.
it's going to be calling the ego. So she
Hmm.
started getting symptoms without knowing why. Because if you looked at what she was talking about, her life, she was wow, joy and still feeling young in the body, even because
Yeah.
she goes to, she works out she runs and she walks a lot and she goes to academy or whatever, and also has classes and all of that so that she keeps her mind, but nothing of this, different stuff that she did was enough to prevent feeling depressed or anxious.
Yeah.
So when she looked for analysis with depth psychology, because she connected to something that she read about Jung, and then suddenly she started listening to this inner voice and starting feeling what because the ego was pretty much thinking that everything was cool,
Yeah.
but in the unconscious, the information that was not like that, because
Hmm.
time was coming to an end for her in this
Hmm.
experience, and she had things to do and had things to pay
Yeah.
attention to. So it's a very interesting story, and unfortunately, we listen to things like that nowadays almost every day because
Yeah.
everybody wants to,
But 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 think about it, and we are a distracted society,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And that the sense of distraction can be this, right? This mobile. device that grabs me, and instead of doing this or that, I spend hours scrolling, which in itself a device for that infinity of there is no sense of end. You can go and go and go, right? So I'm thinking to myself as you're talking about this patient. I am 70, and on the at the surface level, I'm doing what's good for me, which is I'm taking care of my brain function, my cognition. I am taking care of my body. I'm taking my care of my diet. I'm really doing good to the body so that I can live comfortably. Yet, is that okay or not okay? And I think it's okay so long it does not become a distraction, another form of distraction, don't you think? And I think one way for us to go back to the beginning in our thought about joy, it is all about, yes, inner balance, yes, harmony, yes, self discovery, yes, compassion, but also living a life of purpose, right? Being
That's
committed,
exact.
right? Committed to something that transcends the physicality of this experience of this body. And I my question for you, because we're almost at time, is if you can maybe tell us if there's any tips or alerts or reflections that you can bring to us before we go on what can we do to cultivate to really work toward having this awareness of this deeper purpose, especially when we are faced with so many distractions and demands in modern life.
To listen to the inner voice. To
Mhm.
listen to the inner voice. Sometimes saying no to all this distraction, as you said so well, Marsha,
Mm,
because the end of the story of this
mhm,
lady, just to finish our
mhm,
talk and to inspire people, and so that people understand why it's so important to have some time to pray, to meditate, to do an exercise of imagination that we did, creative imagination, as Joanna said, because then we are connecting to our inner world and our images, right? And we are in contact with our own inner characters, the child, right? The inner child, the complex of the mother, of the young person that we have been, the father, so many characters that we have that can tell us what's our purpose in this life, as you said. So imagine when she started analysis and all this stuff. One of the things that I haven't told you is that she had a 95-year-old mother
oh wow.
who had
Mhm.
dementia.
Oh
Okay,
yeah,
and she would pay for caretakers because she wanted
yeah.
to have her life and travel all around the globe and all this stuff. So when she started getting depressed and she started listening through analysis of dreams, because then
Hmm.
the unconscious never lies.
Yeah.
Our consciousness gets distracted, as you said, but the unconscious never lies, people.
Uh-huh.
So when she did this, Marsha, what she realized, the time that she had left,
Uh-huh.
she wanted to experience motherhood.
Oh,
How could she
interesting.
experience motherhood at 70?
Yeah.
The answer was there. It appeared in her dreams. She had to take care of the mother herself,
Uh-huh.
right? And she
Yeah.
did that. She stopped traveling. She
Uh-huh.
stopped, of course, with some help of one another caretaker, but mostly she would
Uh-huh.
stay with the mother.
Yeah.
She would even change diapers of the mother,
Uh-huh. Hmm.
and she discovered herself.
Oh, that's
She
beautiful.
found she found herself in motherhood, and she was so grateful for her mother to give her the opportunity of taking care of knowing what was taking care of a small baby in a sense, but of course the mother was an old lady, but she was like a small baby because she couldn't walk anymore. She used diapers. She had to give food for the mother in the mouth, right, as we do in a
Yeah.
baby,
Yeah.
with the baby. And so she had this experience and she rejoiced, and she was
Yes.
very grateful to life for even at 70 learning what was motherhood all about and finding this source of love
Oh, love it.
inside of herself that she
I
didn't know
love
she had.
it. Yeah,
So I
I
think
love
that's a
it.
very good example.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And just for all of you are there, we are at time. And just to recap a little bit, we talked today about this interplay between our physical, emotional, psychological worlds, right? So that we can perhaps start to uncover how to embrace our challenges, life's challenges, but we do this to do this with joy, compassion, and doing that, we are able to have that deep personal growth. And it's very interesting because the idea of losing oneself, right? Losing yourself, the hero's journey, but doing that in the sense of self-discovery, it will never lead to a permanent loss, but it will lead us to an essential stage of transformation because it will help us break free from fear, and ultimately finding our purpose, finding ourself, finding joy. But for all of you who are here today, if this is the first time that you listen to our program, please note that the Psychology and Spirituality weekly talks are based on the works by Joanna DeAngelis. And we do hope that you are able to make some connections, right? And perhaps even expand your own thoughts in terms of spirituality and psychology today. I want to thank you, Anaí, for being here with us and exploring the topic. And of course, thanks to all of our sponsors, Mansão do Caminho, the United States Spiritist Federation, the International Spiritist Council, and AMI Brazil, the Brazilian arm of the Medical Spiritist Association. We'll be back next week, and I hope to see you then. Thank you so very much, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Rejoice.